Alright, this is my video update from my outreach to Bolivia. I mean, it was a really cool outreach in time to obey him and see what happened, and it was amazing. So wanted to share that with you guys without having to type it all out and without you having to read it all, because that might not have happened. So here it is. This is the team that went with me down there. It's myself, Ben Grasby, who's next to me, who's Newcastleite, Novocastrian. Next to him is Pika, young Mexican guy, and then Pamela, who's from Honduras. So how it all began, God spoke to me years ago about Bolivia, and I didn't know why. I didn't know what for or how or any. No, I had no details. Just Bolivia, that I'd be going, that I should be going. And so I just kind of left that on the back burner for years. And then at the end of the All Generations DTS last year, felt like God said, go to Bolivia at the end of the year. So that was the plan. That's all I had. And ended up talking to Ben Grasby, who is coming through Newcastle, and he actually told me that God was telling him the same thing, that he felt like he was supposed to go. We decided that we should do it together, that we both had no idea why or what for, so might as well do it at the same time. We figured out a week or a couple weeks that would line up with both of us, and that's when we decided to meet down there in Santa Cruz. We had a bit of a side project because Ben is a part of a church here in Newcastle, and his pastor and one of the other ladies in his pastor both came to him separately without knowing each other. We're doing the same thing, and asked him, I think, about help for Spanish. They were trying to learn Spanish, and he asked them why, and they both replied and said, because God's telling me to go to Bolivia. And neither of them knew that they were both doing that. Neither of them knew that God told Ben that, and that there was another guy, me, who said the same thing. So God is raising up, at least in Newcastle, people to go into Bolivia. And so one of the, I guess, side projects we had to do was to find contacts, to find a place, find people, find churches, ministries, opportunities for more teams to come. So that was kind of in the back of our mind the whole time, is we got nothing else to do, let's find stuff, let's figure this place out. And so that's kind of how we started. We showed up as we were checking me in this hotel. The guy at the counter turns out to be a Christian and goes to a church and calls his pastor, and his pastor came out to meet with us that day. So the first day we're meeting with this pastor, who turned out to be the man, the guy that we were supposed to be with. This is him here, and he was the main contact, or most of what we did. He's the guy we stayed with for a period of time, and his churches, he pastored 2 churches in the area, were kind of a big part of what we did. And then the next day he introduced us to his pastor, who is the regional pastor for the area, who planted most of the churches around there and was responsible for looking after Assemblies of God in that whole region, which is quite a few churches actually. And so that night he asked us to preach in his church, which we did. Quite a cool opportunity for this. The second day we were there, we just went straight into it, and God was ready for us. He was doing stuff. He had things set up for us to do, and didn't waste any time getting us there. So one of the really cool things that we got to do was with this family that we met, and this is them here. They just been to the doctor because the woman on the left, her name is Lydia, she was really, really sick and had been for years, and the doctors didn't know what to do, didn't have anything that they could do for her, and basically sent her home to die. Eventually found out that she'd been just in talking to him, found out she'd been involved in witchcraft. It was quite clear that was what was affecting her, and so she was really bloated in like her stomach. She couldn't walk, couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't go to the bathroom, and was just, her body had almost kind of stopped working. But we were able to break the witchcraft over her and see her and her entire family get saved right there, and then prayed for healing, and she, within a few minutes, was up, very different from where she was. She was walking around and going to the bathroom and eating and drinking, and a different person, and healed. And it was really awesome. But it didn't end there, because we ended up seeing her and them multiple times throughout the couple weeks we were there. God kept bringing us back to them, and she was struggling with belief and with receiving healing, and every time we'd see her, she'd be sick again, and she'd be saying it came back and she was going to die again, and had this mentality that she wasn't healed. And so it was quite a spiritual battle over her life. And we found out later why, when right before we left, we went out to her village where they lived, and it was hours outside of Santa Cruz. But we ended up finding out that there was an Australian girl in that village that lived there and was married to a Colombian guy, and we turned out she was a Christian and had been praying for this family for years that they would get saved and be the people that God uses to change this little village area. It was very clear that God brought them to us and us to them, and especially when we talked to her, and she realized that we were a direct answer to her prayer, that God used us to respond to what she'd been praying for years. And so for her, it was so encouraging just to see something so crazy, and a couple people from Australia to boot, somebody from her her own country, and it was just an incredible sort of God moment where we got to see His hand so clearly, and moving in supernatural ways. And then we got to leave her with that family to continue to fight for them, and share the truths of who Christ is, and what He did, and keep them strong, and help Lydia to stay in that place of she's healed, and not let that witchcraft continue to sneak in and steal and rob. And so that was something that kind of continued throughout the whole time we were in that city, which was really powerful and really cool just to see what God was doing. We actually got to do almost the same thing for this little boy here who is about 3 years old, and his grandfather was a white witch, and so when he died, this little boy got those curses on him, and so we were able to break that and see him freed from that, and actually see him delivered from some spirits as well. And we did get to do a lot more than just deal with witchcraft as well. We got to see a lot of people come to know Jesus and share the gospel. We were able to see people healed from different injuries and pains, lots and lots of prophetic words, even some random things like marriage counseling, and connections in between different Christians in the city, and even sharing Jesus with people on buses, and whatever opportunities God brought our way. It was great to see a lot of different things happen, a lot of people touched by Jesus. So other than that, we got to do quite a bunch of different stuff. Those are a couple specific stories, but spent a bunch of time riding around the city in the back of trucks like this, and ministering to the 2 churches that we were working with through the first pastor we met, and got to preach quite a bit on the character of God, and God's father heart, and God's love for us as a bride, and that kind of relationship side of God, which was really powerful. And a lot of ministry and a lot of prayer in that. But yeah, we got to see all kinds of things and eat food off the side of the road, and get around. Mainly the city of Santa Cruz is where we spent most of our time. But you got invited to people's homes to eat traditional Bolivian meals that were incredible. And I just sort of going through some of these pictures to tell you another story. We were praying at a church one night, and getting prophetic words for people, which happened quite a bit. God was speaking to a lot of people in these 2 churches about calling and about new things that He wanted them to do. And I think God really wants to use those two churches that we spent a lot of time with to really rise up, to start doing things, and He was calling them to a new level. But I was praying for one lady, and she was saying how she had some sort of heart disease, and she again, the doctors couldn't do anything about it and didn't know what it was, and she was just probably going to die. And was praying for her, and felt like God said she had unforgiveness. And so I asked her, and she said, yeah, I can't forgive my mom. And this is all through a translator. But just talked to her through being able to forgive her mother, and what she was able to do, and then got to pray for her, and was a really cool moment. But minutes after that, she walked to the back of the church and was praying for someone else, and she just kind of started freaking out and clawing at her chest and saying, I can't breathe, and it was a demon that was just coming out of her that was trying to hold on, and she had no idea what was going on. It was manifesting. And so Ben just yelled, get out in Jesus' name, and the demon screamed bloody murder, and she fell on the ground, and it was over. It was that simple. When she was able to forgive and get unforgiveness out of her life, literally the demonic forces couldn't even hold on. Like, it had no ability to be in her life and in her body at all. And just to wrap it all up, I've been asked a few times if I'm going back, or what's going to happen after this, and I don't actually know. If God sends me back, awesome. I don't necessarily feel any sort of real strong call or need to go back there yet, but what we did find is that God is really moving in Bolivia from Australia. It was pretty clear that we met a random Australian out in a village. There's 2 people from Ben's church, all separately, all of us getting the call to go to Bolivia. And even since then, one of the youth who is a part of our youth program here in Newcastle is doing her YWAM DTS in in Santa Cruz, in the YWAM base that I got to stop in and see. And so it's beyond coincidental that God wants to do something, and He wants to call Australians to Bolivia. There's tons that I could have said that I didn't say, because it would have made it too long. But hopefully this was enough to give you some information on what happened and what God did, and hopefully out of it we just see that God is doing some pretty powerful things. And it was exciting to be able to be in that place of obedience, to do what He said, no matter what it looked like, or no matter how vague it was. The cool part was we just had 3 weeks of trying to keep up with God as He moved in Bolivia, and it was a blast. It was awesome. And now, go to where'sjesse.com. Check out my website. This should be up there, as well as every other update I do, which comes out bi-monthly. Feel free to subscribe or send me an email, and I'll put you on that list for more of this kind of action. But where'sjesse.com is a place to be.